So what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper. Welcome everyone to another video today here on the channel. Now in PUBG, not every gun is created equal. Some are clearly easier to use than others. Some grant you greater reward based on its characteristics. There are weapons in this game that I would recommend to newer players to help them get familiarized with the game, and then there's also ones with incredibly high skill gaps that only veteran players could really learn to master. I think having this extremely varied skill gap within all of the weapons in PUBG is one of the core fundamentals that makes the game enjoyable. And so today, guys, we're going to be looking at the top 10 guns in PUBG that take skill to use. These are basically going to be the ones that I feel require the most amount of skill to handle and will also grant you the greatest reward for learning to master it. And what's interesting is not all of these are even traditionally good in the sense that it's used. Some of these can honestly be considered as one of the more poor weapons in the game, but they do have certainly a very high skill gap nonetheless. So we're going to get into that, but if you guys do end up enjoying today's video, please make sure to go ahead and give it a like rating. I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe, of course, if you are brand new to the channel for more videos like this as well. And also make sure to go follow me over on Twitch, where I'm going to be streaming. Link is down below in the description, but let's go ahead and get into it. Taking our number 10 spot today is going to be the Crossbow. Now, obviously, this kind of has to get its own pass as it's not extremely competitive with the real guns in the game. That being said, however, the Crossbow on paper looks amazing, right? This can one-tap anyone regardless of their helmet type. It's also the only true silent weapon, even compared to the VSS. The Crossbow is virtually undetectable at any range, but the problem here is because you can only fire one bolt before having to reload, there is a severe punishment for missing, and if your enemy can detect where you're shooting from and they have a real weapon, quote unquote, then you're basically screwed. The Crossbow is very situational, and I think it also takes a long time to understand the mechanics of how the bolt actually drops, because you don't really lead it like a regular weapon in this game. It's kind of in its own bubble, and so I think it definitely deserves some credit for that. It is a quite strange weapon to run in this game, and it's not extremely popular for the reasons we just mentioned above, but also I think that it does require a fair amount of skill if you are going to pick up some kills with it, and you can do some pretty impressive things if you have enough hours with it. Coming today at the number 9 spot is going to be the SKS DMR. Now, what's interesting about this weapon is I remember playing this early on when it didn't have all of the attachment options that it does now. This has a multitude of different options that you can run the weapon between its grips and whether you want to run a cheek pad or not, and even the degree to which you want to have a scope. The reason why I think the SKS is one of the highest skilled weapons in the game to use is because of the multitude of ways that you can run it and how different the performance is, even with minor differences in the attachments. For example, the light grip and the vertical grip are by far the best attachments to run on the SKS, but even something like the angled grip is not worth running in my opinion versus no grip at all. The weapon stability and scope bounce that you get when firing without these two grips is pretty dramatic, and so there are a lot of specifics that come with the SKS. Some people prefer it without, some particular attachment. Some people need to have it fully decked out with a cheek pad and everything, but there's a million ways you can play the weapon, and if you know how to play all those different variations of it, this can be an extremely effective and dangerous weapon to use. It certainly can be tricky to get a hold of, but it's a weapon that commands respect. Coming today at the number 8 spot is going to be the DBS. Now, what's interesting about this weapon is it has some of the most unique characteristics, not only just amongst the shotgun class, but within the entire ecosystem of the weapons in general. The DBS is the first crate, pump action, and also double barrel shotgun that we've had. The skill in the DBS comes with its timing and also how you use its range. Now, the DBS can fire up to 100 meters and still hit targets. It's not going to be dealing a ton of damage at those ranges, but you also want to know how to time in between each shot before you have to, do the pump action animation again. So there's a lot of forethought, I guess would be the right word, in how to use the DBS in a current situation. Now, it's not the most practical weapon in PUBG I found, and sometimes it can feel incredibly inconsistent, but it's a fun weapon to use nonetheless, and I think it's certainly one of the most unique guns in the game. Requires a fair amount of skill to use. When paired with something like a very strong AR or even a DMR for that matter, the DBS can just be an absolutely insane combo. So definitely wanted to make sure we didn't pass up on this one. But moving on and coming in today at the number 7 spot, I think it would be a sin if we didn't include the VSS. Now, this is not the hardest weapon to use amongst some of the other ones on this list, I think, but this also has a set of unique properties that no other weapon shares, and especially amongst the sniper rifle class, one of the biggest deterrents to the VSS. It's got incredibly low damage per bullet, and also the bullet velocity is nothing to write home about either. That being said though, the VSS is still cool because it's, in my opinion, not best used as a traditional sniper or DMR. It's extremely dangerous up close using full auto sprays, and something you also may not have known is the VSS recently got a shadow buff. The horizontal recoil of this weapon seems to be significantly reduced, and they didn't mention it in the patch notes, but this will happen sometimes. It looks like this weapon got a slight rebalance, making it much easier to handle. VSS is definitely not a beginner-friendly gun, we'll say, just because of how different it is compared to most of the weapons in the game, but it's still something that with enough hours you can get a good handle on and really do some damage with. Coming today at our number 6 spot, guys, is going to be the M249 LMG. Now, a lot of the guns when it comes to bipods, the ones that get the credit the most, I feel like, are probably, you know, the QBU, maybe the Mark 14, and also the DP28, but a lot of people seem to forget that the M249 also has a very effective bipod. The reason why I feel like this requires an amount of skill to use is because of its versatility with scopes. One of the most common ways to run this weapon is with a red dot, and people just kind of use it as a better assault rifle, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, using it in that manner, but I also think it's best used with a long-range scope and can really put down some serious sprays with a controlled hand. With a 100 round capacity, this thing is absolutely insane at fighting squads in extended battles. Basically, a lot of the ways that you win with the M249 is just simply laying down fire, and when your opponent has to reload, you don't, so you kind of just go in and sweep up the kill. It's also worth noting that the M249 has a fairly long reload time, so these need to be spaced out in a way where it's not going to affect you very much, and you're not going to put yourself in danger when going in for that very tactical reload. While it still is an unbelievably effective weapon when used correctly, I think this requires a lot of forethought and critical thinking to use this weapon properly. That being said though, it is an absolutely standout weapon in PUBG still. Coming today at the number 5 spot is, yes, I have to bring it up, it's got to be the Deagle, the good old Deag. Now, what do I say about this weapon? First of all, I just want to say I'm really glad we have it in the first place. I think this is a clear example of a weapon that we kind of spoke into existence as a community, and I think it's better for it as a fact. The Deagle's interesting because it completely negates the R45 pistol. The R45 is just simply an inferior weapon to the Deagle, but all of that advantage comes at a price. The Deagle is extremely hard to compensate for because of its pretty dramatic kick, and also the fact that the bullets aren't the fastest traveling thing in the world, and so if you're trying to shoot an enemy far away, this really isn't cut out for that, to be honest. Where the Deagle really shines, I feel like, is within house-to-house combat, you know, especially in the early looting stages when you're going to be window peeking your opponent. You don't really know if they have a lot of armor or not. The Deagle is good for kind of just putting pop shots down those windows, and while there is a little bit of punishment for missing, I think it's definitely, this is probably the only pistol that I feel is worth carrying around, even despite you having 2 other good weapons. Coming today at the number 4 spot is probably one you forgot about, to be honest, and this is the PP Bison. So I feel like this hasn't been on any list that we've made almost ever, and there's a couple reasons for that. It's not a very popular weapon, and it's also not a very good weapon, I don't think. The fire rate combined with its handling properties make for a very high time to kill, and unfortunately that just means your enemy is going to be able to tank a lot and likely outgun you just in a straight-on fight. A couple interesting things that it does have though is that it has a 53 default round capacity magazine. Obviously you can't put any extendeds on this, and you also can't put any grips, which I think contributes to its overall high skill gap to use. The main problems is that it doesn't have very many options for control, and it also doesn't kill very quickly either, so these two things combine to lead to a very poor weapon. But if this can be controlled, then theoretically it should have a pretty high skill gap, and I definitely at least wanted to include it on this list because of the interesting and properties that it contains. But moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to our number 3 spot, an absolute meme of a weapon, the Revolver. The Revolver very much echoes the problems of the PP Bison in another way. Yeah, this weapon theoretically can put out a lot of damage, but the problem is you can't put any sights on it. The rate of fire is pretty slow, so is the reload, and speaking of the reload, don't even get me started. When you reload this weapon, you put it right in front of your face, leaving any vision you have in front of you completely blind. In 2019, this weapon just simply isn't competitive. Trying to take down a player with any degree of skill using a Revolver is likely not going to go very well. It theoretically can reward a very steady and skilled hand, but I just think in the current meta of PUBG and the way that players are skilled nowadays, you're just not going to be able to hold up with a Revolver, and I don't recommend using it hardly at all. You might as well throw it away. It's a hard to use weapon with really not a ton of reward in return. Guys, coming today at our number 2 spot is a weapon I actually really like, and this this is the Barrel M762. Now, many people in my comment section say that this is the hardest gun for them to use in PUBG and want to know exactly how they can be better with this weapon. I'll let you guys in on a little secret. The trick to using the barrel is never shooting more than 10 to 15 bullets at any given time, because as you can see in this demonstration, once you get past around the 15 bullet mark, the recoil, even with a fully kitted out weapon, is just completely unmanageable. And so without attachments, it's pretty much impossible to have an extended spray with, but with, you know, shooting around 10 to 15 and then resetting your shot, the barrel is actually quite manageable. Obviously, things like the vertical grip and the angled grip are going to be the best for this case, but no matter how you have this kitted out, it still requires some degree of skill to use. It's also a little bit difficult to do barrel sprays with. The weapon is still very good, but I also agree that this requires a steady hand, and probably an experienced PUBG player is going to like this more than casual players. Now, before we unveil our #1 spot of the hardest weapon to use in PUBG, I want to give an honorable mention to the MK47 Mutant, which honestly, when it launched, was probably the hardest gun to use, but now has gotten significantly easier with its updates. But I think it still deserves to be on this list, but I didn't really know where exactly to include it in amongst this ranking. But the Mutant absolutely has to be up there for sure. But anyways, guys, coming today at our #1 spot, the hardest weapon in PUBG to use, in my opinion, has to be the SLR. So you might be asking yourself, okay, what makes this weapon so difficult to use? Now, this is basically the Mark 14 just on hard mode. The scope reset that you get between each shot is a little bit difficult to compensate for. Not only that, but the SLR can be fast fired with an extremely skilled hand. This is probably the hardest DMR to quickly tap and stay on target relative to where your opponent is. It's pretty good at actually fast tapping vehicles, I've noticed. But whether you're using it as a proper DMR or maybe using a red dot and trying to fast tap with it, either way, it is a very difficult weapon, an awkward one to really get a good handle on. It was a very tough choice between the SLR and the barrel for being the hardest weapon to use in the game, but I think both of these require the same amount of skill. They're kind of just different skill sets, and because the barrel is automatic and you don't have to worry about this, you know, fast firing it, then the SLR has to have the slight edge. But either way, both of these weapons and pretty much all of the other ones on this list take a fair amount of skill to use, and I think they're all pretty good in their own right. So anyways, guys, that is going to be the top 10 hardest guns to use in PUBG, the ones that require the most skill. Let me know what you think about my list down below in the comment section. If there's another weapon you think that takes more skill to use, let me know what that is down below. I would love to hear your opinions. And also, guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you're brand new for more videos like this. And also, if you don't mind, go check out the link in the description where I have brand new merch. It's only going to be available for the rest of this month. And if you guys want to end up picking it up, it helps out me and the channel a ton. So thank you so much. It's only around for the rest of December, and it looks absolutely amazing if you ask me. So anyways, guys, go give that a look and let me know what you think about it. But I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream or the next video. Have a good one, and peace out.